I believe the next day we were walking on the beach, because we normally do a walk on the beach before the afternoon session, and Linda and I were walking south there at South Nags Head, and we looked out over the ocean, and there was at least a 2 to 3 mile in diameter craft that emerged out of the water. And you could clearly see the edges of it, and it came up and it went down. And it was, unfortunately, neither of us had our camera. There was a man there who was from Ireland who was on the beach, but not with us. He did have a camera, but he thought it was just an island out there. Of course, there are no islands out there off the Outer Banks. The next landmass is Bermuda, 1,000 miles away. And it was there for several minutes.
It looked exactly like an island to me, because I'm used to the Pacific beaches where, like in Hawaii, where you really can see an island off the beach, and Southern California. And I wasn't really thinking of the geography so much, and I thought it looked exactly like an island. It was that distinct.
Well, and after it vanished, and this is what it did, it was there a few minutes, and then
it followed us, remember?
Yeah, it did follow us along the beach.
Yeah,
and I was
it moved along with us a bit.
This thing is huge. It's the largest thing I've ever seen.
It had to have been miles, because it was like a big island.
And it had come up out of the ocean. It was interesting, because the military advisor for our project, when we were here with these officials from this other country, the previous week had told us of he was in the Navy, of an encounter one of his colleagues had in the Pacific, of being out in the middle of the Pacific and having what looked like an island rise in front of them and just hover, not hover the whole thing, but just the top of it sticking out of the water, and it looked like an island that had appeared where there was no landmass, and then it took off and went straight out into space. This one actually remained and went back down into the ocean, and we concluded that there was a large interstellar craft that could materialize and dematerialize that was there off of the coastline. And this was very clearly seen by me and Linda and by this gentleman from Ireland who had worked for a port authority as a policeman and kind of knew what, but it was so solid, he was just assuming that there were islands out there. And then later when he looked and saw there were no islands, he was astonished and didn't know what he had seen. And
he saw the little black craft.
Yeah, and right before that, well, you tell them that. That's a great...
Well, I wasn't there when he told the story, so I'm...
Oh, well, what happened is that he had, just before he saw this thing that looked like a massive island where there is no island, he had this about 1 foot to 1.5 foot diameter black disc that flew along the beach and went straight into the water within feet in front of him. And he clearly saw it. He went, my God, what is that? And as he looked, he then saw this big, huge ship out there, which unfortunately he didn't photograph because he thought it was an island. But what's fascinating is that at this time, after this vanished, we had the sky right over where this had been. We had a military aircraft, a big one, that came in and circled for about half an hour. And then we had jets, fighter jets that flew in literally at rooftop in violation of FAA requirements right over this populated area of the Outer Banks where all the resorts are. And literally,
sonic booms.
And there had been these two enormous sonic booms out over the ocean where there were a couple of jets that were vectored in. Yeah. But this massive craft just simply dematerialized. Yeah. But it was still out there because we had further encounters with it later in the week where we would be out on our site and we would see objects come up out of the ocean and also move towards us on the beach. And we concluded that this was some massive craft that had to be 2 to 3 miles in diameter. The distance it was out there, it covered such a large part of the horizon, and it was out 3 to 5 miles or more. We estimated it had to be at least 2, 3, 4 miles in diameter, that it had a lot of these other ET craft within it. And those are ones that we subsequently saw throughout the course of the rest of the week.